So I just posted a little teaser video about a trip to Dakhla, and here I wanted to follow it up with a real full travel guide for those of you that might be considering going. So let's start with how I chose Dakhla. Honestly, I had initially planned a trip to Western Australia, a trip from Margaret River all the way up to Darwin in a camping car, camping and kiting at all the different beaches. And right as we were about to pull the trigger, we just couldn't wrap our heads around a 24-hour flight. So we started to look for a place that we could kite that was closer to New York City. And we settled on Morocco. Morocco, Casablanca in particular, is about 6.5, 7 hours from New York City. Dakhla is then another 2-hour flight. And there's a bunch of other cities and interesting spots in Morocco that are worth checking out. So Dakhla, what's the deal? Dakhla is in the Western Sahara. This is a disputed area that's currently occupied by Morocco. It used to be Spanish, and then it was kind of split between Mauritania and Morocco. It's about 2 hours by flight south of Casablanca. And from there, you have to take a 30-minute ride from the airport out to the lagoon where all the kiting happens. And then all around the lagoon, what you'll see is a bunch of kite clubs or kite camps. So these are kind of all-inclusive hotels. They're a little bit more bungalow style. They have kite schools, they have big dining halls, they have other facilities, massages, recreational activities. And really the primary focus of this entire area are wind sports and kite surfing. When to go? So the prime season is really April to September, with July and August being kind of the super prime season. I've heard that that can get really crowded because all of Europe is off around the same time. So in my case, I ended up going in the off season. I went during the holidays, so Christmas and New Year's, and I just found a lot less people. In terms of wind during the peak season, it tends to be 20 to 30 knots. And during the time that I went, it was more kind of like 14 to 22. So you trade wind for less crowds. Where should you stay? Like I said earlier, this is really a kind of a kite camp centric location. So I think the kite camp that you stay in matters immensely. And we stayed at Dakhla Club. Dakhla Club at the time happened to be pretty new, so the facilities were all fresh. Everything was really nice. And the things that matter are going to be proximity to the lagoon. Some of them have long walks. The food, in our case, was great, and so it really made the trip. The team, so the team at the club, the team at the kite school, in our case, they were super enthusiastic, super knowledgeable. They really made our stay incredible. And then extra facilities, so things to do when there's no wind, or in our case, if you're kiting 6 to 7 hours a day and your muscles are going to be shredded, recovery options like massages to help you get back out kiting the next day. So really spend the time researching the kite club and make sure that you're comfortable with all the options there, because you may end up just staying there most of the trip. So what is there to do here? Kiting, 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 more kiting, mostly just wind sports. So the lagoon is the prime attraction. The lagoon's mostly a flat water spot, although it's big enough it can get some chop. The lagoon's deep enough for some foiling. There are surf side options on the ocean side. You know, really that's it. So if there's no wind, you really need to think about what are the other options to do when you're at this kite spot. I know you can go into Dakhla, the town. We didn't get a chance to do that. You can experience the desert. I think you can get a kind of a taste of Moroccan culture, meet Berbers, maybe hear Ganawa music, have mint tea. These are kind of some of the more touristy things to do. I think those are all options, but really the main focus of all of this is wind sports and kiting. So let's talk a little bit about what else you should do on this trip. I think there are really two routes. You'd fly into Casablanca, and then you could fly straight to Dakhla, and then you could visit some towns on the way back up to Casablanca. So there are Agadir, Essaouira, Marrakesh. You can stop in the Atlas Mountains, or you could go the other way around. I think Essaouira is a beautiful town. It's right on the ocean. Agadir is more of a resort town, so think hotels directly on the beaches. The Atlas Mountains are beautiful, they're really remote. We went and did some hiking. I think that's a worthwhile trip. And then Marrakesh, I think, is the most touristy and kind of the most famous spot. So it's worth popping in, it's worth seeing the souks, seeing the kind of the intense sensory overload that you get from going there. I found it to be too much, so really a day or two was all I needed, and then I was ready to get back out and go explore other parts of the country. But keep in mind, these are all amazing places to visit that you can kind of group along with your kite trip. So yeah, those are my tips. That's kind of my travel guide for Dakhla. The 4 tips I really want to spell out the most are: pick a good kite club, potentially consider going in the off season if you want to avoid the crowds, have backups and alternatives for kiting. I didn't see a lot of foilers when I was there, so if you foil and bring a foil, I think that will help get you through those light wind days. And then make sure to check out the rest of Morocco. Check out the other cities, meet Moroccans. They're incredibly warm people. They have delicious food. They have a deep, deep culture that goes back, you know, to Berbers inhabiting the region thousands of years ago. So yeah, those are my tips. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. If you've got any questions, throw them in the comments down below. And thanks for watching.